live at www.spectrumtvlive.ng. For more inquiries, call 0704 158 5642. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Joining the show is going to be audio call because it's not online for now. Okay. I just did that.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the exciting moment to talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Kim. Well, two gentlemen back, but not as usual. Unfortunately, Itina still not being able to make it. Difficulty recovering from after that shock that happened to the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Bloemfontein against South Africa. But he'll be back next week to join proceedings. I'm not feeling too okay at the end of it, and that's what football brings anyway. Well, Latoya David being part of that mix. Today's conversation would center mostly around the event that's taking place in the world of tennis at Sao Paulo, with the likes of Ella extending hot winning streak. We'll also talk about Kwaibom Sports Festival that's taking center stage. Multiple wins, multiple sagas in it. It will be a conversation today, and definitely the much you can look at in the world of football. A few individual trophies here and there for the likes of Dembele and Cristiano Ronaldo, being the best player in history of Portuguese football at the Gala Awards of Portugal for Cristiano. And then we talk about the ONS award for Dembele, regarded as the best player in the world at the moment. Just 32% a win ahead of Lamine Yamal at 30%. It would be definitely a conversation. We'll also talk about the Nigerian Premier Football League in all of this. Before I get to hit the ground running, let's begin here with David. Good morning, so good to see you.
A delight to return on the show this fine morning, Blyden. In a mix of one, we're also talking about the international break gradually getting to one end and club football returning. Already players have reported in training for their respective football clubs. So Rokodari here, a private jet was sent by Wolverhampton Wanderers to pick him up immediately after that game in South Africa. So it certainly shows you how valuable some of these Nigerian players are for their respective football clubs. A delight to see what's going on.
A delight to see what's going on. And quickly, we hit the ground running and talk about the world of tennis, as we're also said, to talk about the Kwaibom Sports Festival. We'll be having a guest in that direction. Well, let's let it grand walk. Looking at the world of tennis in Sao Paulo, it has to be one player, Alexander Ella, showing class and dominance, extending hot streak, winning over Julia Raura. Well, we've seen what's happening with this player. Full players have really enjoyed stronger stretch in this one, the WTA Tour. Lately, one being Alexander Ella. Well, it all started at a 125 tour level event at the Guadalajara in Mexico. And then now, after winning that tournament, she's building momentum now in Sao Paulo, getting a victory over Julia Arala in 1 hour 17 minutes, 6-1, 6-4, a victory.
Well, it would have actually been quite a different case if Erla was just, on the heat of being quite so dominant this particular season, or maybe enjoying one of our best, years at top level competition. And then we're not talking about upsetting the big guns this year. Ella have also upsetted some top-seeded players in competition particularly. So that shows you the trajectory of Ella this particular year. And of course, also riding on some level of confidence as well, particularly as a youngster, as a matter of fact. But I'm quite satisfied with the level of progress she's making at the moment. However, I'm also looking at the bad side of it, because the same thing we also said about Victoria Book of Canada at some point this particular year, riding in confidence and some fairy tale run of form. But what happens when you have that momentary blip? I think that's where I'm actually looking at Ella at the moment. Hot streak of form, consecutive matches, winning all of these and making a whole lot of sense as well. But I really want to see her, contend with all of these whenever we'll have that momentary blip. One straight defeat could also, overturn the trajectory of momentum she's having at the moment. But I think good fine run of form for Ella at the moment, and I just want to see her move year after year. I think one fortunate thing about Ella's story at the moment is the fact that we don't have big competitions, left at the moment, at all level competitions, maybe a few of them before the end of the year. And I think maybe she can actually, get a momentum off that, and maybe look forward to next year when she'll be facing the top gun. So a good victory for her, good consistency for her. I want to see where it ends for her.
Latoya David wants to see where it ends for her. Well, good for the young star, showing class and dominance and building that open. Got a first round victory against Clara Towson in that one. Quite impressive, but I would say. Well, when you talk about the world of tennis, the conversation would be which tennis games are taking place. And now we'll be talking about the Davis Cup qualifiers that will be taking place, and moving towards September 19th, thereabout to about September 21st. Then we'll be talking about the Rod Lava tournament, the Lava Cup, with the likes of big superstars also featuring. And we'll be talking about Team World against Team Europe. Well, Team Europe have won the tournament 5 times, talking about the Lava Cup. And then Team World has won it twice. This would be the 8th edition of it. Well, the likes of Carlos Alcaraz have withdrawn from joining Spain in the qualifiers for the Davis Cup. Is that conversation? The man needs some rest. But most likely he'll be turning up for the Lava Cup. We'll get to be turning up for the Lava Cup. We'll get to talk about the Lava Cup in the coming days and in the coming week. And now quickly let's move and talk about stories within Akwa Ibom. Then it would be the sports festival taking place in Akwa Ibom, which I don't know if you've been following, but I'll give you a match report that's taking place yesterday. First it was the Economic Business Center, a match report. September 10th it was Uyo Locked Horns Junior Girls. It was a walkover. Uyo Locked Horns Junior Girls. It was a walkover for Team Uyo at 8:45 a.m. And March 2nd, talking about the second match, instead of tying Ibesipo Senior Boys final score, what instead of tie 1 Ibesipo 0. And match ended abruptly after Ibesipo fans and officials invaded the pitch and manhandled the referee. And match 3 on the day was Nsaratai versus Uyo Male Junior. And regulation time scores ended 0-0 after penalty shootout. Uyo 5 Nsaratai 4 it ended. And 18 versus Nsarubom Senior Boys, a full-time score was 18-2. Nsarubom 1. Well, our guests will be joining us in a jiffy, but before you get to join the guests, Tutuba David, well, lots of games are expected today, and part of it would be some of those games, athletics games, taking place at the Gospel Akpabi International Stadium. And we have football match has been going on at Gospel Akpabi International Stadium. And we have football match has been going on at Gospel Akpabi International Stadium. We're looking forward to the 400 meters final taking place today, and two Nigeria's finest quarter milers, Victor Ime Sampson and Ezekiel Enoy Sukwo, would be part of the blockbuster showdown in this. And 4x100 meters, high jump final, discus final also taking center stage. I don't know what you've made of the sports festival so far, but it's getting to a heightened position.
Well, I must say it is highly competitive. First off, 2 or 3 days before the start of the Akwa Ibom State Sports Festival, I was actually opportune to go to the Nest of Champions, and I saw the array of athletes that were actually training at the Nest of Champions early morning, in the early hours of the morning. I saw, of course, a whole lot of coaches also, are trying to charge the boys, particularly those that are running on track 100 meters, 4x100 meters event, preparing quite well. And I must say, the preparations were quite, good. The first day, the opening ceremony, we also saw a match where Uyo were able to get the better of their opponent 2-0. Just before the entrance of the Uyo Township Stadium, we'll definitely have, you see, a pool, that's a swimming pool by the left hand. And that shows you that swimming is also part, of this particular competition. Basketball, volleyball, all of this part of this particular competition. And I'm excited about the fact that we have more competitors now. If you look at each local government, we're talking about over, 20 athletes each in each of the 31 local governments. So it shows you that the intentions of these boys is also to compete at top level and trying to win, of course, laurels and medals to their respective selves. And it's making a whole lot of sense as well.
All right, it's making a whole lot of sense as well. While preparing for the big one and who would win this one, I think I heard, well, I got to talk about this particular one because it's a little controversial. Many people are saying Team Orowanam wouldn't be able to win the competition again. Previous time, they've been quite dominant, and I heard the governor's wife at the time was from there. Well, let's go and talk to our guest. Kanimo Kofre joins the conversation this morning, and the conversation was centered around the Akwa Ibom Sports Festival, the Youth Sports Festival, and the indices around it. Good morning, Kanimo Kofre.
Good morning, Blyden. Good morning, Vicky.
All right, so good to
join
have
you from Nest of Champions here in Uyo.
All right, so good to have you join a conversation all the way from the Nest of Champions. Well, let's start from what's really happening at the Nest of Champions. What's going on now? I remember before this game, I spoke to you. You said, well, a particular game was going on. What's happening? What's the scoreline at the moment?
Okay, we have another game going on at the moment. Was the game that I the training pitch was between Isnobolo versus Paranin, where Paranin defeated the opponents by 3-2 on penalties. Despite the presence of the chairman of Isnobolo, the boys lost narrowly because they lost focus in their penalty shootout. And after that, I had to move to the main hall where we have the women for by the hip. Have the boys take it in the men's 4x100 relay. So it has been a big hub of activity here. The shot put is going on there now. and the high jump as well. So I think, like the words of the two chairmen, they are so much impressed and they are quite happy about the rebate of the festival by Governor Omoyano.
All right. Well, we'll get to hear from the Eastern Obolo's chairman talking on football, and we'll also get to hear from Paranin chairman who had to speak regarding track and field. But let's keep tab with Akademo Kufre. Well, Akademo Kufre, there is speculation about the fact that at this youth game now, many people are. I saw some journalists make some comment. They said Oregon was quite fantastic in time past. I remember, I think the former governor's wife was from there. Stand to be corrected. But now it seems like they're struggling a bit. What's really happening in that regard?
I think the preparation this time around, a lot of factors played a quite an important role for chairmen to prepare early. But I want to give it up to who is now leading the pack with lots of goals to their advantage because the proximity to West Ham facility, the proximity to Ibiapitam, the proximity to even the different stadia here, Nest of Champions, has given them advantage. So quite a lot of local government supervisors for sport rush in to pick up athletes. But I think the young man that has been in charge of youth athletic events and youth games in the grassroots games in this town, talking about your friend Ifyokinam, he had a lot of advantage in selecting some of these players to I must tell you. So, and I think they prepared quite early as well, whereas other local governments barely settled down to check the players. Even Uyo also, which is doing well also in weightlifting, had to settle down late to select. And also one of the factors that most of the young chaps who are rising stars were in Asaba in the events there. So I think the picture, but a lot of athletes, a lot of shining star is seen from Itu local government this time around.
Facility at West Etam Secondary School is located in E2, and commercial secondary school, Comsecom they call it, has been participating. Most of the students have been participating in national sporting activities, so no wonder it's really happening. Let's look at one incident in all of this before I go through the fixtures of football games that are taking place at the sports festival today. Well, an ugly incident in Ikolekpene Township Stadium where officials were insulted and assaulted in Team Senatai against Team Ibesipo Sultan, a football boys a senior game. Well, we tend to see this thing always happening at the youth games. Sometimes, even at the Governor's Cup last time out, we saw a similar situation where certain group of people could not take a failure. They always mount on the referee, try to interrupt proceedings, and we're having it back again. What do we get to do to stop all of this so that fans get to understand football is not a, or sports is not a do or die affair? It's simply you win some, you lose some, and you draw.
Okay, sports is a platform that we control our emotions, we control our temperament. You know, when you look at the odds against you, you look at the umpiring, the facility, the pitch in case of field activities.
Well, a bit difficulty there having a kind of more Kufre continued conversation. Well, he'll get to join us again soon. But at this point, let's look and have conversation from the chairman of the different local governments who spoke. First would be Eastern Obolo for football, and Mparenin, a chairman who spoke regarding track and field event and the performances of their side. Let's have perspective from this chairman. Well, apologies for not being able to get you those visuals regarding the speech from the chairman. In the coming days, we'll get to hear from them. A little bit of hinge when it has to do with connectivity in there. Well, to David, you've heard all the indices. Some games are taking place today at the Gospel Akpabi International Stadium. And when you talk about the fixtures today, we'll be having Ona versus Sekir. I think it's already happened. And the likes of Fiston Bolo versus Paranin at 8 a.m. it was. Mbo and Orefon Oroko for football junior male fixtures. And meanwhile, underlisted male junior teams should report, they say, at the Gospel Akpabi. Lots of games taking place in Bionibon Roganam, which is the one that Kanemoko Frey just mentioned. We're looking at the quarterfinals games. Una versus Ikorepeni, Korabasi versus Abak, 1:30 p.m. Etienne versus Ibionibum and Oroganam, 3 p.m. and Urefon Oroku, Oro versus Nseratai Ikono. Today is basically what it is.
Well, I think I'm quite happy. I just had a question for the gentleman, but
well, I think Kanimo Kofra is still there.
I don't know if he was you
there. You can send a question direct to him.
Well, Kanimo, can you hear us? Hello, Kanimo. Okay, maybe we'll ask some more time, because I actually have one concern about the organizing committee of the Akwa Ibom State Sports Festival. Yeah, we've been hearing medals have been won by different individuals, but we're still here to have a clearer picture of a comprehensive, medal table to keep in touch with the developments happening with each local government. So we're talking about 31 local governments. So what we're hearing is a certain individual, a certain athletes won gold medal, but then it's not reflecting. We do not have a comprehensive list of the medal table and how things stands every single day. So I think that's only my concern at the moment.
It's not been updated as fast as it should be.
Absolutely.
So events take place, it takes maybe a day before it gets to be updated and all of that. It should be done on the go.
Absolutely.
But it's basically what it is. Well, a difficulty connecting Akanimoko for a back, but and that's where we'll go on a quick break. And when we're back, it will be football stories all around the world, looking at the indices of the footballing world. Which transfers are still taking on? We're talking about lots of free agents finding that club. The likes of Ericsson, formerly of Manchester United, and now going to Wolfsburg. It will be a conversation when we're back from the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's still Sports Central, and my name is Bladrick, with David being part of that mix going nowhere. We're at a conversation on the world of football, and football, here we go. Let's begin from the home side. A big story we're hearing: the general manager of Kano Pillars and a former superstar of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, former captain of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Captain Ahmed Musa. And we hear he's back from injury, recovering from that injury which he had at match day 2 against Ricky Torres. And most likely it would be featuring next for Kano Pillars in that next game. Looking forward to match day 4. Well, David, the big man, returns for them. Quite a walk being a general manager and a footballer at the same time, and also nursing injuries.
Well, I think it shouldn't be a problem for Kano Pillars at the moment, because he's also an administrator, or a manager rather, and he's also, a player.
Maybe not wonder about him playing many games.
Yeah, he will actually be used sparingly this season, owing to his role, his double role, particularly at the football club. But it's just quite good that he returns back to the side, maybe provide that leadership role for Kano Pillars players who've actually had a new coach, had, of course, changes in players as well, and even the managerial scene. So, good boost for Kano Pillars as they're looking forward to another game.
A good boost for Kano Pillars as they're looking forward to another game. Meanwhile, Asante Kotoko have begun to solicit fan support ahead of the CAF Confederations Cup preliminary round. First leg tie against Kwara United, as Ghanaian club have embarked on a radio station store to create awareness for the upcoming game. Quite a big game for them now. Let's look at it from a Nigerian point of view. Kwara United, are they ready?
Well, I think it's a very big question to answer at the moment, because if you also look at how Kwara United were actually you know, promoted to CAF, you know, Confederations Cup preliminary round, what will question the quality of Kwara United at the moment? First of all,
Why?
they went through the route of winning the President's Federation Cup. We all know that.
A legitimate route.
No doubt about that. But then you look at, of course, in recent times, you know, teams that have actually won the President Federation Cup, usually teams from the second tier, of course, in Nigerian football. And then you look at the fact that their home games would be here in Uyo. Now, we're talking about home supports. How many people right here in the shows of the state will definitely go to the stadium to, you know, cheer Kwara United to victory? December will be having the Ashanti Kotoko side, you know, being cheered to victory. So many indices rather for Kwara United at the moment. But I think they also have it at the back of their minds that it is continental football. So as a matter of fact, recruitment for quality players and also being quite prepared for the big stage. I think this is where we definitely know whether or not they're ready.
Whether they're ready for it, and that's why it's so important to make sure that you have a good home ground for your team. Is that concerned? I'll quickly switch gear and talk about a talking point. It would be that the Nigerian Premier Football League clubs have been warned against participating in any youth league not sanctioned by the board. A number of clubs have been participating in the N-Youth League, a tournament designed for the discovery of youth talent. And the NPFL, however, declared that N-Youth League has no affiliation with the board. What do you make of this one now? The young superstars and this league side called in a youth league. Maybe the NFL is saying, come on, they have to register this league under the board of the Nigerian Premier Football League, since it's under the covey of the Nigerian Premier Football League. But warning clubs not to participate, does it hold any water?
Maybe they're also looking at the fact that it's actually gradually gaining traction down the under-18, you know, MPFL Youth League that we usually know every single season. So that's why they're coming out with a statement. But I think it's not bad to actually have, you know, youth teams participate in non-league leagues, particularly trying to put themselves in top gear. Because if you look at the NPFL Under-18 Youth League, it is usually played as a tournament within a period of time, talk about 1 month or thereabouts, and it is done. So what happens with the other month, where we have the senior NPFL club players playing all through the entire duration of the season? So I think, of course, they should look back at this particular warning and also allow those boys to engage in top competitions up until the end of the season. I mean, the league is not just about 1 month something. You cannot just play a league for just 1 month. We call it a tournament. So what happens after that tournament closes? I think the boys should be allowed to participate in other leagues and maybe an invitational tournament, as the case may be.
Or maybe an invitational tournament, as the case may be. Or let's say, come on, this non-league side, they're causing a problem. Not allowing everything to be stable under the NPFL the way it ought to be. Well, we'll see how to get it sorted out at the end of it. And quickly, let's go to England and talk about the case of La Aina and Nottingham Forest. La Aina featured for Nigeria at Bluffington against opening at the time South Africa. Well, South Africa pulled a 1-0 draw against Nigeria, and big hopes for South Africa to qualify for the World Cup, 2026 World Cup, ahead of Nigeria. 17 points for South Africa, 11 points for Nigeria as it stands. 2 more games left, but a big concern was La Aina in the first half had some kind of a hamstring in there, and many are wondering he will be available, especially those at Nottingham Forest are wondering about La Aina's fitness ahead of Arsenal clash. A big one to wonder. Some problems for international break for some clubs.
Absolutely.
We've heard about Manchester City, Omar Mamouche, at La Aina, Nottingham Forest, a key player for Nottingham Forest.
Well, I think it's quite, you know, expected that when you have players go on international break, most times you may not actually have them fit back home. Same could also be said for Victor Osimhen, who traveled to, you know, Turkey back after that injury in the first game. So I think at the moment, Nottingham Forest should find a way. They have 2 replacements already, 2 versatile players that can actually play as a right back. But La Aina is the first choice right back for the side. And in a crucial game against Arsenal, you definitely expect your, you know, top players to be part of that particular game. Now Nottingham Forest have a new manager, Ange Postecoglou. So it's also time to try out other players in the absence of the Nigerian right back.
Our time to try all the players in the absence of a Nigerian left back. And quickly, let's go still stick with England. Now to the English national team. Thomas Tuchel, the coach of the side, after beating Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers 5-0, came out to praise the likes of Marcus Rashford. And a couple of players said if they train well, give a good smile and perform well, they have a choice and a chance to perform for the national team. They got a victory over Andorra, 2-0 victory. But a conversation, as Thomas Tuchel said, that competition is on for World Cup sport. But it's always not for me, I see what England does to David. It's always your current form that brings you there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it shouldn't just be about your current form. It's also about the pedigree, what you bring to the table. But Thomas Tuchel said competition is on for World Cup sports.
I think there shouldn't be complacency for, team selection for the World Cup. Yeah, we can actually know you as a quality player that have actually, performed over time. But what happens at the calendar year where we have the World Cup taking center stage? I mean, Marcus Rashford, who scored 30 goals 2 seasons back, I cannot pick him over a player who's doing quite well in the Premier League. At the World Cup year, if he's not doing quite well with Barcelona while on loan. So I think that's where Thomas Tuchel is looking at the moment. Yeah, Harry Maguire over time has been of course, terrible, but in recent times has been doing well for Manchester United. I won't look back at Harry Maguire of 2 seasons ago.
In recent times, yeah?
No, I'll look at Harry Maguire of recent times.
He's not been playing for them.
Yeah, he's not been playing recently for them. That's due to the fact that he's also been struggling with, fitness concerns. But if he's doing quite well in the World Cup calendar year, I'll pick him ahead of other players who've been doing well, but recently not doing well.
Here's another conversation around this, because you have players that could be sitting on the bench for the club side, but when they don the national team jersey, they sparkle.
How often?
And you have players, it happens in football a lot, you have players that are playing for their club sides, and they come to the national team, they can't sparkle.
Well, I think the whole idea
for example, Victor Boniface of Nigeria, at Bayer Leverkusen playing so well, but the national team, and no. So how do you get to start him ahead of a player who's done well? Cyril Dessas, for example, recently, everyone said Cyril Dessas should play.
Those players,
the national team, it doesn't work.
Those players you've mentioned have been tested at the national team level.
Yeah.
So I think Thomas Tuchel also knows players that won't actually be fit enough for the national team, because he's also played those players. So I think at the moment, many will be looking at other cases, maybe the likes of Kelechi Iheanacho, for example. Yes, the national team, player. But in recent times, he's not been playing for Sevilla. He's looking for a move now. He's actually moved to another football club. So if he does better there, then he can be invited back to the national team. But if he finds game opportunity he had to come by, then he should be dropped ahead of the World Cup. So I think that's where Thomas Tuchel is actually looking for at the moment. And also I think this speech is also trying to put the English national team players on their toes at their respective football clubs. They have to sit up in a World Cup year.
All right, a final conversation from us before we end the show. Could be this one that has to do with legend, an English legend in that direction. Maybe not an English national legend, but a football club, Leicester City legend. We're talking about Jamie Vardy. Well, he's just turned 39 years of age this January and recently signed for Cremonese in Italy. Well, a journalist interviewed and asked a question about doubters concerning him. And Jamie Vardy saying, maybe you are one of those doubters. Oh, come on, age is just a number. Which would I ask you as we close? Is age just a number?
Well, in sports, it's quite, pivotal to your level of productivity, especially on the pitch of play. So
not just sports alone.
I wouldn't totally agree with Jamie Vardy, but you look at Cremonese and knows, pressure at the moment for him. Look at the fact that it is a newly promoted club side to the Italian Serie A. They've won, of course, 2 games already this season, one against AC Milan and one against Cagliari. So those are statement wins. Jamie Vardy fits in for them. We're looking at how he will actually perform at the new club side.
We're looking at how he actually performs at a new club side. Big question is age and just a number? Well, trust me, no matter the kind of sports you do or activity you do,
it is not just a number.
It's not just a number. Always gets to play. Either you get wiser with age or you get foolish with age. Either you get stronger with age or weaker with age. And all of that, get smarter with age or... well, the other side of it. As we close, ex-Premier League referee David Cute has charged over a child abuse video. Why always him? Many problems for this man. An ex-Manchester United star, Christian Eriksen, joined Wolfsburg on a free transfer. And a fan has been arrested for alleged racist abuse aimed at Kylian Mbappe. The international break is over. We're back to club of football. Lieutenant David, thank you for being a part of it.
A pleasure as always.
Well, we're bound here. Tomorrow is another day. Further conversation continues when we return to a club football. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for being a part of it. Further programs up for your grabs.